This story kicks off with our main character, Shaidru. He considers himself objectively ugly, but despite that, he's learned to live his life with his head held high. For example, he poured everything he had into his sales department job with what he calls ugly guy determination. His motto was always to smile and never let his clients down. And even though he never had much luck with women, he'd managed to build a stable and fulfilling life. But everything changed one day on the train when he was accused of being a pervert. Even with both of his hands clearly full, nobody believed him. They threw him off the train, revealing a bag full of, well, video games. As if that wasn't bad enough, the situation escalated and he ended up in court, slapped with a 300,000 yen fine. Our hero decided to just accept the blame, thinking it would save him time and trouble. He couldn't have been more wrong. His life started spiraling so fast he was fired from his job in no time. Years later, the woman who falsely accused him was finally arrested. It turned out she had a habit of making false claims because she couldn't stand ugly guys. I'll just leave that right there. The worst part, since she was a minor, she got off with probation. No matter how hard our guy tried to clear his name, it was no use. Over time, that ugly guy pride that once fueled him began to feel like a curse. The whole traumatic experience of the false accusation kept him from living a normal life. 6 years flew by, and he became a total shut-in, burning through his savings and living off his parents. People in his neighborhood just saw him as the loser who never went outside. But his life was about to take a sharp turn. One night, he stumbled upon a website promising a second chance, a new life for those who didn't have it so great the first time around. At first, he thought it was nonsense, but he followed the instructions anyway. At exactly 2 a.m., he had to point his computer north, open a window, raise his hands, and wait. Suddenly, a prompt appeared on his screen. He could accept the offer for a new life, or reject it at the cost of half his remaining lifespan. He clicked accept. His new life's stats popped up. When he got to the appearance section, he cranked it all the way down to a negative number. This gave him a massive amount of bonus points. But then, this genius decided to pick some seriously negative special attributes. Things like a 0.01% money acquisition rate, a 10% health loss every second he touches a girl, and instant bankruptcy and death if he ever. He did all this to rack up a staggering 100,500,000 bonus points. He planned to distribute them wisely, but he ran out of time. Just like that, he was transported to a new world, looking just as unique as he'd chosen. He wondered if he was dreaming, but 3 other people appeared, telling him he was finally awake. He couldn't help but notice the interesting outfits the 2 girls were wearing. He offered one his shirt, since it looked cold, only to get shot down immediately. First rejection in the new world, check. The trio introduced themselves. The blonde guy is Seiji, the blonde girl is Rizu, and the blue-haired girl is Seika. They're all supposedly 16, just like our protagonist, though you wouldn't guess it by looking at him. Seiji asked if everyone else had followed the same weird internet ritual. Turns out, they all had similar backstories and were looking for a fresh start. Our hero, however, wasn't here to make friends. If his past life taught him anything, it was that friendship was useless. He opened a nearby drawer and found a gold coin, but the second he touched it, it vanished. Right, that 0.01% money finding skill. Seiji called out to him, letting everyone know there was gear they could equip, all of which magically adjusted to fit their bodies. It seemed like there was enough for the 4 of them, except for the money. There were only 7 coins, which they couldn't split evenly. They started to suspect someone might have taken one. Since our hero had already made a coin disappear, he just told them he didn't need any money and that they could split it. Seiji didn't think that was fair, but Seika figured if that's what Shaidru wanted, they couldn't force him. After all, he hadn't found any of the coins. Of course, he'd intentionally avoided them so they wouldn't poof into thin air. In exchange for his share of the money, he asked for an axe. But Seiji warned him that trying to go it alone would only lead to failure, just like before. Seiji believed that teamwork was the key, and that this new life was a chance for him to overcome his own selfishness and poor communication skills. He suggested that if Shaidru had trouble communicating too, they should work on it together. They ended up settling the gear dispute with rock, paper, scissors. Shaidru was left with a plain wooden stick. Seiji then suggested they all hold hands, but our hero quickly passed. He didn't want to get hurt because of the debuffs he'd chosen, confident they would pay off soon. After a while, Seiji suggested they head to the nearest town, Iria, according to the map. Even though Shidru wasn't keen on it, he ended up tagging along. The moment they opened the door, a monster was waiting for them. Seiji took it down in a single blow, but it wasn't alone. More were on the way. The blonde guy was a natural leader, immediately giving orders and organizing their defense. Shidru seriously wondered if this guy ever actually had communication problems. Seika, on the other hand, was struggling to even string her bow. A monster landed a hit on our hero, and now it was Shidru's time to shine. Or not. He had no strength. Panic set in. He couldn't fail again. But then he remembered he never assigned any of his bonus points. In that moment, a surge of anger gave him the strength to defeat the goblin. To everyone's surprise, that one kill rocketed him all the way to level 31. It turns out he had a special trait that multiplied his experience gain by 10,000. The others had leveled up too, and he noticed he couldn't see their status screens. Now it was time to cash in. He pumped 1 billion points into every available stat. As he did, everything went haywire. A golden aura surrounded him, and he was granted the title of Absolute God. Another goblin came to attack him, but its strike did nothing. From now on, our hero was going to test his newfound power. And, oh, that poor goblin. That's all I'll say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the birth of the Absolute God. While the others were still fighting, our hero felt a little bad for Seika. She hadn't done a thing and had even started crying. So, he pretended to have Stringer's syndrome, a totally made-up condition, and asked if he could string her bow for her. He claimed the bow was speaking to him, begging to be strung. She bought it and handed it over. Thanks to some videos he'd watched and his 1 billion points in dexterity, the result was incredible. She wanted to give him the first shot, but he refused. She insisted, so he finally agreed, deciding to use a skill called Ultimate Strike. He fired the arrow into the sky, which seemed pointless, but then a massive magic circle opened up, summoning a dragon of light that vaporized every single goblin. Amazingly, Seika just accepted this, thinking he must have been in the archery club. With the bow ready, Seiji asked Seika for help, but her aim was terrible. She used up all the arrows without hitting a single target. Not wanting to see her sad, our hero used a skill to craft a whole new batch of arrows for her, though it didn't do anything for her aim. Eventually, they defeated all the enemies. Everyone was thrilled, and Shidru thought that maybe traveling with this group wasn't so bad after all. After a few hours, they finally reached the city of Aria. The first thing on their minds was food. Surprisingly, it seemed like this world had burgers and fast food too. This was our hero's chance to slip away. After wandering for a bit and ending up at a fountain, he started to get hungry too. The only problem was, he had no money. A small cat came up to him. He wanted to pet it but remembered his curse, lose 10% of his health for every second of contact with a female. Even though it was a cat, if it was a female, the penalty might still apply. Better to be safe. Just then, Seika found him. He was so startled he fell into the fountain. She asked if he was okay, and he said he was. Then she showed him a hamburger she'd brought as a thank you for stringing her bow. He was surprised by her sense of honor and gratitude and happily accepted it. But as he took the burger, his hand brushed against hers for a split second. The result? A mind-numbing 58 billion points of damage, enough to wipe out the human race 300 times over. He was in agony, but she just called him cruel for wasting the burger she'd bought especially for him. Still in pain, he managed to calm her down by explaining that her beauty made his hands tremble. He promised to eat it anyway, so it wouldn't go to waste. Seika, thinking it was a bad idea to eat something that had fallen on the ground, decided to give him her own food instead. She even apologized that her beauty had caused such a disaster. He gladly accepted, but pointed out that it was her meal. "It's fine," she said. "Unlike you, who's poor, I have plenty of money." How sweet of her. He didn't know what to do, but then she admitted she knew he had secretly made more arrows for her. This was her way of truly thanking him. Now, Shidru knew he was indebted to her and would have to repay the favor sooner or later. Just then, the other two showed up. They were planning to continue their adventures together, so it looked like our hero's solo journey would have to wait. And that's the end of the first episode of Uglamug Epic Fighter. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video. In a life defined by a fatal illness, the only world that mattered was the one on his screen. He poured his final days into the game, mastering its every facet. But death was not the end. He awoke in that same world, stripped of every achievement, every power. Now a novice in the land he once dominated, he faces a brutal new reality. To survive, he must not just play the game, he must conquer it. The story begins with Takuto, a young man confined to a hospital bed, whose only escape is an empire management strategy game called Eternal Nations. His dedication to the game is so profound that he literally dies while playing. However, death is not the end for him. Moments later, he awakens in a lush forest, seated upon a throne in what appears to be ancient ruins. The first thing he notices is the crisp, fresh air, a stark contrast to the sterile hospital environment. A beautiful woman with elven features approaches, asking if he is finally awake. Takuto instantly recognizes her as Atu, a character from his beloved game. To his bewilderment, Atu addresses him as Your Majesty, leaving him utterly confused. As a seasoned anime viewer, Takuto quickly deduces he has been transported into the world of Eternal Nations. Atu reveals that he is the first player ever to conquer the game's nightmare difficulty level using Minagra, the most challenging civilization. This achievement, she explains, has earned him a legendary status on the leaderboards. Takuto's confusion deepens. How could a game character possess such meta-knowledge? Atu clarifies that she remembers everything, every victory, every defeat, and every word he ever spoke to her through his computer screen. Tears well up in Takuto's eyes as he learns that his connection with his favorite character was not one-sided. He expresses his joy at finally being able to converse with her directly, and Atu reciprocates the sentiment. When he asks if she was the one who brought him here, she confesses her own ignorance, having found herself in this mysterious world only moments before him. Holding his hands, Atu encourages Takuto to start anew and build another empire, one where they can live together. With no other purpose, he agrees to share her ambition. As they shake on it, Atu playfully reverts to her in-game persona, introducing herself as Atu the Sludge, an illegitimate child of the ruined world, and vows her eternal loyalty. Though the evil character trope feels cliché and leaves them both slightly embarrassed, Takuto joins in the roleplay. He declares that with Atu as his right hand, he will establish the most infamous empire the world has ever known, Minagra. Their first order of business, as any good Minagra ruler would know, is to remain hidden. To this end, Takuto summons an emergency production scout, a grotesque, long-legged bug befitting the evil and ruinous nature of his civilization. He commands the scout to survey their surroundings, a task Atu emphasizes it must not fail. Through a shared vision with the scout, Takuto realizes that the mechanics of this new world mirror those of the game. He explains to Atu that summoning the scout cost him 100 of his 200 magic power. He contemplates using the remaining MP to establish a base or summon a warrior, though the latter is currently beyond his means. Atu, a hero unit, is strong in combat, but her power level is a mere 3 at this early stage. The scout's reconnaissance reveals an endless expanse of trees, an ideal location for their hidden base. However, Atu notes the unsettling absence of wildlife or food. As it's too risky to move, Takuto sends the scout to survey a wider area. Feeling useless, Atu is comforted by Takuto, who assures her that her presence alone is more than enough. Touched by his words, she finds herself falling for him. The scout soon discovers a camp of dark elves. Wary of trespassing and inviting conflict, Takuto resolves to observe them from a distance. But their plans are abruptly thwarted when 3 dark elves stumble upon their location, leaving them in a precarious situation. The dark elves, led by Captain Gia, are not hostile. They have been exiled from their city and have led their people deep into this cursed forest for safety. Their journey has left them without food, and their children are starving. Gia, burdened by the weight of his people's survival, had been wandering the forest in a desperate search for sustenance. Sensing Takuto and Atu's presence, Gia panics, fearing an attack. He knows that the fate of his race rests on his next move. Upon seeing the enigmatic, black-clad Takuto and the elven Atu, Jia and his soldiers immediately drop to their knees, admitting their trespass. Atu sternly questions their presence in the Forbidden Land. Jia recounts their tragic tale of banishment and starvation, his anxiety palpable under Atu's cold gaze. To his astonishment, Takuto simply asks if he is hungry. After a moment of hesitation, Jia affirms that he is. In response, Takuto materializes several apples. Jia, having never seen such a fruit, is initially bewildered. As his soldiers begin to eat, Takuto produces pears as well. The Dark Elves have always faced hostility, and this act of unprompted kindness leaves Jia suspicious. He declares his intention to take the food back to the children, but before he can finish, Takuto summons even more fruit. The children in the Dark Elf camp are on the verge of death when Jia and his team return with a bounty of food, bringing with them a renewed sense of hope. As the camp feasts, Jia reflects on the mysterious figure he encountered. Later, an elder named Molter questions Jia about the origin of the strange, delicious fruit. Jia explains that he met a legend in the forest. Molter wonders if this could be the mythical King of Ruins, a figure from ancient tales said to bring destruction. He presses Jia, asking what he offered in return for the food, convinced that no dark being would give something for nothing. Jia insists it was an act of pure benevolence from the Great One. Their debate concludes with Molter vowing to handle any future negotiations with their mysterious benefactor. Meanwhile, Atu is furious with Takuto for squandering his precious mana on strangers. She reminds him of the uncertain future and the battles they may face. He admits he acted out of pity and confesses his shyness around the Dark Elves, which Atu had mistaken for regal role-playing. Their playful bickering is interrupted by the return of the scout, its survey complete, leaving them to ponder their next move in this strange new world. And that's the end of the first episode of Apocalypse Bringer Minegra. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.